Mother's Day, man. Big old ball of emotions for a lot of people. I mean, there's joy, there is sorrow, there is regret, there is pain, there is thankfulness, there is praise, there is anger, there is disappointment, gratitude. I mean, all those things all in one big ball for depending on who you are, depending on what moment when you're thinking about mom or you're thinking of yourself as a mom. Let me tell you about, I don't think I ever publicly talked about this. Mother's Day 1990. Mother's Day 1990. The fact that I remember the date tells you something, right? Young pastor, very young guy, had been on location at this church for about 2 months in Atlantic. We had moved from Des Moines to go to Atlantic before we came back here to start Pathway. But so we'd been there for about 2 months, so I didn't know the people very well yet. Cheryl, my wife, was a brand new mom, so Danielle's probably a couple months old at the time, so there's great joy happening. We're like, Mother's Day, woohoo, everything's great. It's Mother's Day, at least until 4-month-old Danielle threw up on Cheryl and her new dress as she was walking out the door to go to church. That, I guess, I wasn't there, but I was at church, but that was, kind of changed the attitude, the mood a little bit, but it was a great day of joy for us. But there were a number of moms celebrating their last Mother's Day with children in the home. There was a big senior group that year, seniors in high school, and some of them were like super close, like super close, and some were like normal people, like, hey, don't let the door hit you on the way out, enjoy college. It was, but it was quite a ball of emotions for those groups of people. I had no idea the trauma that families went through when children move out until it happened to us. And we're like, whoa, man, this is hard. No one told us that. And so that was going on for some people. Add to that, about 2 months earlier, a highly respected matriarch of the congregation had passed away unexpectedly. We still lived here in Des Moines, and she had been flown here in the hospital. So while I was here and not there yet, I was able to visit her and meet her in the hospital, but she died there in the hospital, a very traumatic situation. It was a pretty big deal. Everybody loved her. The church was still very much in mourning, in a state of shock, even about her death as Mother's Day approached. And I didn't understand that. I didn't know that. I mean, of course, it's sad, but I hadn't known her that well. I only met her a few times at the hospital. No idea how deeply loved she was. I don't know who planned the church services, right? It was 1990. It was kind of old school, rural congregation, probably the piano player or whatever. I don't know who. I just showed up and preached, whatever. It didn't matter to me. And someone planned it that day, and they asked the middle-aged daughter of this deceased mom to say a few words about her mom during the service. And I thought, okay, I knew that was coming. I thought, okay, I expected probably 2 or 3 minutes, a nice tribute to mom, warm fuzzy, maybe ending with everybody hug your mom. This could be your last one. I thought, yeah, I could see that being an important part of the service. It turned out to be a 25-minute, emotionally fully charged eulogy. I kept going, as the minutes are going on, I'm going, well, I have a sermon coming up here. This is going to be kind of awkward. I'm not going to have time for all this, right? And it was filled with tears and filled with sobbing and deep waves of grief, going throughout the congregation as people were considering this wonderful woman who had passed away. Next up in the plan, besides music and stuff, were some graduating high school seniors who got up and talked about their moms. So some of the girls talked about the deep connection and how sad it was that in just a few weeks they were headed off to summer to enroll early in Nebraska, and they were going to go off, and it was big sad. There were a lot of tears over that. One guy had a long teenage boy, long pause, and he finally just looked at him and said, yeah, she nags a lot. But okay. Going, how do I save this, right? Like I said, I'm a young man. I'm new to the congregation, new to parenthood. I had not properly taken the temperature of the congregation. And so the sermon I had prepared that day was a super lighthearted, almost borderline comical look at 3 examples of bad mothers in the Bible. Yeah. Yeah. I don't even remember who 2 of them were, but one of them was Samson's love interest, Delilah. And I honestly don't even know if she's a mother. She fit what I was looking for. It's going to be great. It's going to be hilarious, right? And I walk through these verses And of course, Delilah was quite the complainer, but the whole thing was, look at this complainer. She nags a lot. She's a big whiner. Samson, why don't you love me? Why don't you tell me the weakness, the secret to your weakness and all that stuff, your strength? I thought it was hilarious. It's not very funny, though, when all you can think about is just a few weeks earlier, the last look on your mother's face as she went to see Jesus, and this was a pretty dramatic scene. And all you can think about is your child that you have poured your entire life into, her room halfway packed up, and they're starting to prepare to move away from you, or the fact that your son just publicly humiliated you by calling you a nagger, which is what the preaching was all about that day too. And so that poor gal was sink deeper as the day went by. It was a rough Mother's Day for a lot of women, and I made it worse. I didn't mean to, I didn't know, but man. It was a bad day. Well, today we're not talking about nagging mothers. I've been here more than 2 months, so I know kind of what's going on in people's lives. Not everything, obviously, but still, man, throughout the years, I have avoided. Maybe you've even noticed. I didn't talk much about Mother's Day. I've kind of avoided Mother's Day. I don't know. I just so many bombshells in the thing. I've never. That was 35 years ago, and still I think about it when Mother's Day is coming up. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I've ever said any of that out loud. Maybe I have, but I don't recall. But here's what we're going to do today. We're not talking about nagging mothers, although I wish I could find that. That was a great. I did it the year before here in Des Moines at the church I was at, and it was hilarious. It was great. Of course, they were all 60, and I was 20, and so it was like, oh, ha, ha, and I thought, this is going to be great way to start out Mother's Day in Atlantic, and I said, no, it wasn't. It was a bomb. It was terrible. What we're going to do today, we're going to walk through a classic portion of Scripture about a husband and wife relationship. And if you're not in a husband or wife relationship, that's okay. Don't worry, like, oh no, it's not about me. There's plenty in this that talk about simply relationship and how to treat people. So it's good stuff for all of us. But it's specifically about husbands and encouragers, as encouragers to set the tone in the home. It's in Ephesians chapter 5, and let's just read it. Chapter 5, verse 25. Husbands, Apostle Paul's writing to the church, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her to make her holy, cleansing her with the washing of water by the word. He did this to present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or anything like that, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands are to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. No one ever hates his own flesh, but provides and cares for it, just as Christ does for the church, since we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother, being joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is a mystery. This mystery is profound, but I'm talking about Christ and the church. To sum up, each of you is to love his wife as himself, and the wife is to respect her husband. Now, this is written in the context of verse 21, a few verses earlier in Ephesians, where Paul says to submit to one another out of fear of Christ. Reverence for Christ is how I remember it from the NIV. I've been switched to a different Bible recently, the CSB, but Christian Standard Bible. But so I kind of like their wording here, out of fear for Christ. But reverence just feels right to me because I have it memorized that way. But it's an umbrella verse, verse 21, talking about our mutual submission that we have for one another that takes place in the home, where wives are told to submit by respecting their husbands. Children are told to submit by obeying their parents. Husbands are told to submit by loving their wives. That's how we all submit to one another out of reference to Christ within the family. Now, it'd be great to take like an hour and really unpack each one of those, because it's really a three-legged stool that makes the family stand in a really stable place. If all three of those things are happening, man, it makes a great family experience. Today, I'm just going to talk about the husbands, though. We're going to focus on the husbands submitting to their wife by loving her. And I can do that because we're going to start studying through the book of Colossians next week, and we're just going to work our way through Colossians. And there's a similar text in Colossians that brings it all up again. So we'll kind of revisit this in a few weeks and look at it in a more deeper, I guess, way there, a bigger context. So today, instructions for husbands. This is how you can help the mom in the family just celebrate her. It's Mother's Day, right? Instructions for husbands. Number one, just two of them I'm going to talk about. Treat your wife better than she deserves to be treated. That's what he says in verse 25 and 26. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church, gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her with the washing of water by the word. Now, the word love that's used here, we've heard it before, is the word agape. You probably, broken that down before. It's a love that's not tied to emotion, so it's not just when you feel like it or when you have warm fuzzies or when you have some type of ulterior motive or something. It's nothing like that. It's a decision. This kind of love is a decision to treat your wife in an elevated way. My act of submission is to elevate my wife, is to treat her better than she deserves. That's your act of reverence to Jesus. Submit to your wife's needs by loving her. Christ loved the church by giving himself up for us, making us holy. He looks at us and he calls us holy. You look at all the letters, the epistles that are written to the church, he calls them saints. That's us. We're saints of God, making us holy, cleansing us with the washing of water by the word. He has forgiven every sin as a Christian, every sin you've ever committed. He's forgiven them. He treats us as if we've never sinned, as if we've never made a mistake in our lives, which you and I both know is not true. I've made plenty of mistakes, you've made plenty of mistakes, but he still looks at you and says, you are holy, you have been washed, you are pure, right? He treats us as perfect in spite of our imperfection. And he says, husbands, that's how I want you to treat your wives. Treat her like that. Does she deserve it? Absolutely not. Neither do you, and neither do you. But Christ treats you that anyway. Has she failed you? Yeah, she's human. Of course she has. You failed Jesus, too. Has she failed the kids? Yep, at some point. Just like you failed Jesus. I mean, that's just how it is, right? But our act of submission is to treat her as if she has not. As if she's the greatest thing ever. Now, if there's some type of continual, habitual, dangerous activity going on, that's a whole different conversation. We're not even talking about that today. But if we're talking about the normal, everyday, petty annoyances of life, you pretend they're not there. She thinks differently than you do. She talks differently. She has a different way of doing things. Cheryl and I have a completely different way of loading the dishwasher. And is she in this service? Is she? Sometimes I will unload her dishwasher and reload it so it gets washed properly. Don't tell her I said that. Now I do that to myself too, so don't. But I don't go around saying, "Man, who's this woman? She loves me." I mean, I don't treat her differently. I just think, "Man, you don't know how to do the dishwasher," and I do it differently. And I hit clean, whatever you hit, and then I put it away, and never knew it happened. It's great, right? So. That's not a reason to dislike someone or to diss at someone, right? A periodic human failure of some kind. Let her be human, like Christ lets you be human. Now, he doesn't excuse sin, but he keeps forgiving us, doesn't he? He expects us to become more holy, to live more righteously. But when we slip and we fall, and we come to him for forgiveness, he's righteous and just and forgives us, just like we should our spouse. Let her be imperfect. Let her be who she is, and love her and treat her as if she is perfect, just like Jesus does for you. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loves you. It's really great. Along that line, Paul says, the second thing here is to speak of your wife as if she's amazing. You're laughing way too soon. You're like, are you doing Verse 27. He did this to present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or anything like that, but holy and blameless. Think about that. Now, you know your deepest secrets. You know what you've done. You know what you did. You know what you want to do, but don't do it. Think, all the dirt, right? And he presents you as holy, blameless, spotless, wrinkle-free. Pretty amazing. Holy and blameless. That's how Jesus presents us. Think about this. If everything your children know about your wife, about their mom, right? Everything, your children or your friends, your coworkers, the only thing people know about your wife is what you put on social media or whatever, however you communicate, right? If it's all based on what you say, not what they see or not what they know, but what you say, would they assume she's like the perfect woman? That's how a loving husband would present her. That's how he presents her to others. Also, how he presents her to himself. The text says that Jesus presents the church to himself as holy and blameless and wrinkle-free, all these things, right? That self-talk you have when you think about your wife or you see your wife or you're going to know you're going to see your wife soon, you're thinking about whatever about your relationship, should be holy. Oh, my blameless wife, without spot, rather than blemish, 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 blemish. That's our self. You know she's not perfect. Right? She knows she's not perfect. Everybody knows she's not perfect. I mean, we just do, because she's human. We just know it. That's how it is. She's not perfect. But nobody needs you to confirm her imperfection. I don't need to hear the faults of your wife. I already know she has some, just like she knows I have some. You don't need to tell me about them. She needs you to present her as if she's perfect, because that's how Jesus presents us to the Father and to himself. So when you talk to your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, whoever it is you talk to, throws that thing on social media, whatever, and you talk to her directly, speak with words that build her up, not tear her down, with words that encourage, not discourage. And that includes things like tone of voice, body language. Every once in a while, Cheryl says, "You mad at me?" I'm like, "What? I don't know, I'm just mad at the world. I mean, not you." I must have some growl on my face or something. And I'm like, "No, I'm not even thinking it. I'm thinking about pizza right now." I mean, I don't know. And so I have to be conscious of what my face is doing sometimes. And it's probably a good thing for dudes to do sometimes. It involves creating an environment in the home where she can flourish, where she can thrive, where she doesn't feel afraid to speak her mind or to say something out loud, but she can be herself. She doesn't have to feel like she's walking on eggshells at all times. Husband, you set that tone in the home. That's how Jesus presents you, how he presents you. I ran into someone the other day, and it just shot me back a few years ago to a situation that he invited me to his wife's and some other people, some friends, a group of friends, to his wife's birthday party at her favorite restaurant. It was a Chinese restaurant down on the south side. We all went down there, and we were eating one night. And at one point, he paused, and he started reading Proverbs 31. And I thought this could really kind of awkward. It's like we're sitting in this restaurant and all these people are around, and suddenly he opens up his Bible and starts reading. Who can find a wife of noble character? I'm like, she's far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her. She will not lack anything good. And he went on and he read the entire chapter of Proverbs 31. There's 31 verses in Proverbs 31. And it's all about the wife of noble character. And it concludes the end of that chapter there. It said, her children rise up, verse 28, call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women have done noble deeds, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but the woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the reward of her labor. Let her works be praised her at the city gates. And so my friend sat there and with our friends and his children and a pretty good-sized family, and he proceeded to heap praise on his wife in the middle of this meal, loud enough for even surrounding tables to hear what he was saying. It wasn't like not being like obnoxiously loud, but just loud enough. He wasn't like going, "Yeah, my wife's great," sometimes when we sing happy birthday, we go out there, we happy birthday to you. We do a whisper. We figured nobody needs to hear that. And he wasn't that way. He was just saying it, right? He was just saying it out loud, giving specific examples of how she was living out the Proverbs 31 life. And her children sat there the whole time nodding, like, "Yeah, that's mom. That's mom." Those of us who were there were like, "Yeah, but we know of her. Yeah, that sure sounds like her." And it was really pretty. It was a holy moment. I remember leaving that going, "Wow, that was something." To the point I saw him recently, and that's the first thing I thought of. What was that time he did that? His wife passed away a few years ago, so it's been a while ago that he did this. And I have no doubt that in their married life there are things he said to her that he wished he could take back. that there were things he regrets, that there was like, man, I shouldn't have said that. I tore her down there. I disappointed her. I made her cry. Whatever he said. He wishes he could take it back. That wasn't one of them. That is a holy moment that he will take to his grave, that he'll remember the day he lifted up. He presented his wife spotless, without blemish, in front of all of her friends and her children. It's my goal, one of my goals in life is to have more memories like that than memories of things I wish I had never said. I have a handful of those too when it comes with Cheryl and I. I'll probably regret this sermon if she ever hears it. I'm still working on it. But I want to have more memories of times I uplifted and bragged up my wife, in private and public, just in general, and less memories of me tearing her down or pointing out some type of disappointment in her. So we got married. We're going to celebrate 40 years here soon, and I always know that because Jim and Kim did it first. They got married a few months before us, so whenever they have a big one, I think, oh, that means ours is coming up. So ours is coming up in August, right? But we got married in this little church on the east side of town. Here we're by the fairgrounds, and little A-frame building. Sat 120 max. I mean, 120 would be tight in there. You'd be shoulder to shoulder. It was a small little church, little wooden pews on either, the traditional aisle down the middle. Just very traditional, what you think of as an old school church with I think it was oak, light-colored wooden pews. And I can still see it like it was yesterday, though. I was standing up at the front, the little stage up there, and with my groomsmen, and the doors of the sanctuary in the back opened up and burst through Cheryl and her dad. They walk through the doorway and they start walking down the aisle. It was a big moment, of course, as you know. I mean, if you've been through that, it's like, wow, that's one of your top moments of your life. We had two plans that day, plan A and plan B. One is I had found a cassette tape, background song I was going to sing to her. I had never heard the song in my life, but it was like the only wedding song available. Back in the day, you could go to Christian bookstores and you could find tapes of stuff to sing. And it was like this song that was like 3 octaves higher than what I could sing, but it was all I could find, so I was like, I guess we're going with this one. That was plan A. Plan B is I came to my senses. I could nod to the piano player, Betty, and she had the wedding march ready to go, and she could start playing the music. No one would be the wiser. The doors opened up. I gave a nod to the person with the cassette tape deck, like a fool, and the music starts, and I start belling, I love you forever, my life. I mean, that's it was way up there, and everybody was, scratching their ears. But nonetheless, I sung my song. They start walking to the front. Now, what I didn't know was moments before those doors burst open and they started walking through. And some of you have heard this before. Moments before that happened, her grandmother came up to her on her wedding day as she was ready to walk down the aisle and say, "Oh, honey, you have a big pimple on your face." She might as well have said, "Oh, honey, you've got a big maggot crawling down your face." I mean, it would have been the same response. You just, pro tip, don't say that to a bride as she's getting ready to walk through the door, okay? Just remember that. And so she's standing there, staring at her, like, how do I respond to this? The doors open, Dad starts walking, I guess we're going. That's what's going on her end of the thing. And I start singing that beautiful song that made her forget everything. And what are you going to do? You just go. So we spend the next 30 to 45 minutes or so, very, inches away from each other, looking directly into each other's eyes and thinking about everything but what the preacher's saying. I know how that works. Trying to focus, but still thinking like, man, if we're doing this is for real. This is like, wow, this is forever. What are we going to look like in 35 years? Probably overweight and, all this stuff, right? But we're looking in each other's eyes, and you would think that if she had some type of mammoth horn sticking out of her face, I probably would have noticed that, And Grandma noticed it, but I didn't. I didn't even see it. I had no idea. She told me about what her grandmother said later that day, and I still am like, what? I just absolutely didn't see it. I didn't care. I mean, to this, it's not even a memory other than that she told me about it. It's just not on my radar at all. What I saw that day, what I remember from that day is those doors flying open, her dad and her walking down the aisle, and the most beautiful woman on the planet was coming to give her life to me, and I was preparing to give my life to her, pledging the rest of our lives to do ministry together, to serve Jesus together, to put God in the center of everything we do and say and think. That's what I remember about that day. What I saw was a holy, blameless, spotless, beautiful woman without blemish. Probably a few times over the years I lost sight of that. Did you do? Right? We're human. We just do that. I love coming back to Ephesians 5 because it reminds me of all these moments. It reminds me of what Paul says, that how we're to live and act as husbands and treat the mom in the family. I love it because I get to refocus my attention to where it should be. If no other reason, because Jesus said so. Whether I still have warm fuzzies or whatever, which I do, but a lot of time, a lot of water has gone under the bridge since then. I get to read Ephesians 5 and refocus my attention because Jesus said, that's all I need to know. Husbands, we choose what we look at when we see our wife, right? The mother of our children. We choose what we think about when we think about our wife. We choose what we say when we present our wife to those around us. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church, as Christ loves you.